Greetings especially to Black women. We are at a very strange time in our lives as Black women right now. There's a war against us. Without being sensationalist, there's a war against us. It's against our bodies. And that war is within. It's in-house. We are scared, or we are fighting with our brothers. We are fighting with our fathers, our partners, the fathers of our children, our colleagues. It doesn't seem like anybody wants to see us. It doesn't seem like anybody values us. It doesn't seem like we are worth the water and flesh that we were created in, just like everybody else. We are being killed. We are being raped. We are being brutalized. And it's escalating. There's no solution that's urgent. There's no urgency to seeing that we're safe. There's no urgency to seeing that we are protected, that we can walk tall at any time, and that we matter. We have become a political pawn for people to talk about, write statements about, but actually there's nothing that's being done in the way of correcting what is currently happening. My name is Yoliswa Nomambondo Miseyako. I'm a commissar in the Economic Freedom Fighters. I'm from Port Elizabeth. I am a mother of 2 boys. One is 13 and one is 8. That's who I am. And today I'm here to present a book that's very powerful, a big book. It's big in that it's powerful. What's inside it is very powerful. And I think it took time for the author to compile this book and to write it and for it to be published. Her name is Professor Patricia Hill Collins. She's an American. She was born in 1948 on the 1st of May. And she has studied. She's a professor in sociology. She got it from the University of Maryland in the United States. And this book was published in 1990. A lot of what she writes about basically is her experiences. She compiles a lot of thoughts from different people who've written, different people that their writings were never read at the time, but she's brought them back to life. And this book's name is called Feminist Thought. And I thought the wording of it is quite important as well, Feminist Thought. Basically, the book is about feminism. Why should we be feminists? What is feminism about? What are the misconceptions that society has brought to the fore about feminism, and why some women reject feminism because of what they interpret feminism to be about? I believe as women, as all genders, we should be feminists. So there are some words in this book that have meanings, and some people don't understand what some of those meanings are. And in as much as I'm also still learning about feminism, I'm also still trying to understand myself within the concept of the movement of feminism, being in politics, being a mother, being a member of parliament. I'm not God is in what I say. I don't think myself of greater understanding than anybody. I'm still learning, and this book really taught me a lot. And it's one of those books, honestly, that I'm going to keep reading over and over again until I can re-educate myself and my own prejudices of who I am, my own shyness of my body and myself and my persons. So it's a very powerful book indeed. Feminism. So there is a term called Black radical feminism. Women call themselves Black radical feminists. What is a Black radical feminist? A Black radical feminist is described as a call for the radical reordering of society in which male supremacy is eliminated in all social and economic contexts. The feminist movement is speaking to the dismantling of class, racist, and sexist oppression as a means to free all the members of the Black community. Intersectionality is also another term that at times confuses people, but most times you'll be speaking about it and saying, I don't understand intersectionality, but you're actually describing intersectionality. Intersectionality is a theoretical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities might combine to create a unique mode of discrimination. There's a woman that Professor Patricia speaks about, Maria Stewart, and she talks about intersecting struggles that black women experience. And those are race, gender, class oppression. Those are fundamental causes for black women's poverty. So I'll be breaking this book into 3 parts, just to make it easier for my own interpretation of it and maybe your own understanding. Yes, any feedback is welcome. So the part 1 talks about the social construct of black feminist thought. Black women's oppression is multi-layered and integral, and we know that. Firstly, the exploitation of black women's labor was and is essential to US capitalism. Now, I refer to the US a lot because the writer comes from the US and her references come from the US. But the United States is very much like South Africa in terms of capitalism, in terms of how government runs things, in terms of how society thinks. And even our history is almost the same without the slavery, but the slavery is in different ways and forms. Firstly, the exploitation of black women's labor was and is essential to US capitalism. So they depicted black women with the iron pots and kettles, the women in the kitchen, symbolizing black women's long-standing ghettoization in service occupations, represents the economic dimensions of oppression. She says survival for most African-American women has been an all-consuming activity that most have had few opportunities to do intellectual work as it has been traditionally defined. I'd liken this to politics, how in politics our male counterparts are deemed as learned. In Xhosa we call it bakhabulile. And for us, we are the roses of the organization. We make it pretty. We are there basically to add color to the organization. But actually, we've been denied opportunities to learn. We've been denied opportunities to be, to be mentored. We've been denied opportunities to be taken under the wing, to be spoken to frankly about the issues that happen in politics, about the dimensions of politics. So we might always view a male counterpart in the space, even in corporate. Your male counterpart will be listened to, but you will sit in the table having said the very same thing before. And whenever the next person speaks, they'll allude to John, as John said. But you said what John said before John said it. In fact, John got the idea from you. But because you're a woman, you're not thought of as smart, because our struggle is also very much academic, very much rooted in our education, even as young children. Secondly, the political dimensions of oppression has denied African-American women the rights and privileges routinely extended to white male citizens, forbidding women to vote, excluding African-Americans and women from public office, and with the withholding equitable treatment in the criminal justice system, all substantiate the political subordination of black women. I'll come back to what I'm thinking now. I'll come back to it towards the end of this. Finally, controlling images applied to black women that originated during the slave era attest to the ideological dimensions of U.S. black women's oppression. Ideology refers to the body of ideas reflecting the interests of a group of people. Taken together, this supposedly seamless web of economy, polity, and ideology function as a highly effective system of social control designed and designated to keep African-American women in an assigned subordinate place. Now, as I've said, she refers to African-American women, but can you not identify with what I've read thus far? She talks about the ideological view of women, what is put out there, what is printed on TV, what image do we have of a black South African woman this time? If you watch your favorite shows, is not a black woman in a subordinate role most of the time? And if she is in a powerful role, is she not depicted in a manner that makes her cold, that makes her evil, that makes her seem as if she is extraordinary to such a point that you think you would not ever be like that? So it's not normalized that a black woman would be in power. It's not normalized that a black woman would hold a position of power. And in the 60s, were fighting for the liberation of women. But the 1976 women, you cannot see them. They're not they're not profiled as much as their male counterparts. They're not spoken of as much as their male counterparts. They were there. They were very much critical in the struggle for quality education, for the education that they wanted. They also went to exile. It was women who held together homes, while the men went off. And Winnie Madikizela Mandela was there fighting for her children, fighting and holding a home, whilst also having a husband away. We never hear those stories. We never hear of the different and many women who've had to deal with oppression, who are at the forefront of the struggle for freedom democratically in this country. So those are ways and means in which we have been subdued, and we have been taken down. We have been oppressed as a women. So you may think that some things are just by the way, or you feel a certain way, but actually it's done on purpose. So she says, again, taken together, the supposedly seamless web of economy, polity, and ideology function as a highly effective system of social control, designated to keep us as women, black women, in an assigned and subordinate place, to deputize, to be lesser in the structures, but also be there, but not play a pivotal role. Can you explain to me why a liberation party that's been there for more than 100 years, such as the ANC, has not ever had a female president? Not ever had a female president, understanding that their constitution is that a president of the party would then become the president of the country. It's never been done because women are not seen. Part 2 of Patricia Hale Collins' book deals on the core themes in Black feminist thought, and she highlights about 8 themes that we need to speak about. The first theme is work, family, and Black women's oppression. She said, Western society and cis heteronormativity defines family and a Black woman's role within the family in a very exact manner. Here Collins writes that this is the structure. She writes that this structure is defined namely by a father-headed home, earning an adequate family wage, and a stay-at-home wife and mother and children. Idealizing the traditional family as a private haven from a public world, family is seen as being held together through primary emotional bonds of love and caring, assuming a relatively fixed sexual division of labor, wherein women's roles are defined primarily in the home, with men's in the public world of work. The traditional family ideal also assumes the separation of work and family. So basically, women, as I said before, they're the pots and the kettles. Women are basically defined as Black women specifically are normalized to work. Their labor is at home, cleaning, the maids, women's places. Wage. She talks about mummies, matriarchs, and other controlling images. Intersecting oppression of race, class, and gender and sexuality could not continue political justifications for their existence. Here Collins quotes Cheryl Gill. Black women's assertiveness and their use of racism to launch multiple assaults against the entire fabric of inequality have been a consistent, multifaceted threat to the status quo. As punishment, Black women have been assaulted with a variety of negative images, portraying Black women as stereotypical mummies, matriarchs, your maids, welfare recipients, and hot mamas helps justify Black women's oppression. Challenging the controlling images has long been a core theme in Black feminist thought. And this is exactly what I was saying, in that the images that we see on TV are very far-fetched. Women are depicted as maids. Women are depicted as going into prostitution for them to make money. Women are portrayed in movies or stories or soapies that we like, our favorite soapies, as women who are ballsy. It's very rough. We are made to be things that can't be loved, things that can't be normal, unlike our white female counterparts. those images, they actually make a difference. They actually make a difference in your daughter's life, your son's life, on what they think black woman represents. You may think it's innocent, or it plays into, yes, it's depicting the normalcy of society, but it's actually perpetuating the relevancy of that society, and the status quo remains the same. The third theme is the power of self-definition. Black women's voices is silenced. Black women constantly have to negotiate space as a means of survival. Being assertive in their jobs or homes can endanger their lives, Hill Collins states. She says silence is not to be interpreted as submission in this collective. Self-defined black women's consciousness. Black women intellectuals have long explored this private hidden space of black women's consciousness, the inside ideas that allow black women to cope with, and in many cases transcend, the confines of intersectional oppression, race, class, gender, and sexuality. So it's better for us to accept the rules that we're given, be silent, not say anything. Because when we do, the oppression becomes that much harder. How dare you speak out on everything? How dare you challenge the status quo? How dare you think you have a voice? You're a woman, we put you here. You're not here by your own design. You're not here because you have the potential to do the job. You're not here because you're smart enough or on equal footing. The fourth theme is the power of self-determination. Here Collins refers to black feminists who highlight the importance of self-determination. She quotes Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni says, black groups digging on white philosophies ought to consider the source. Know who's playing the music before you dance. Giovanni also goes to say, when black women's very survival is at stake, creating independent self-definitions becomes essential to that survival. Other feminists like Lord echo the same sentiments, that you cannot use the master's tool to dismantle the master's house. Sister Outsider, that's in 1984, Asata Shoko says, nobody in the world, nobody in the history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who are oppressing them. Self-determination has been and will always be salient to the emancipation of black people and black women. Meaning that we can't use the same tools to dismantle patriarchy. We can't use the same tools to dismantle misogyny. We can't use the same tools to get rid of the status quo. We've got to think outside the box. You almost have to be radical, and the system hates radicalism because it goes against, it's vulgar to them, and they put it as vulgar. So they paint it in bad ways so that you shy away from fighting against it. So you will not be aligned with black radical feminism, because to you it would mean that then you would not have access to certain spaces, because there you are being that black radical feminist who's going to dissect everything that we do. Is everything that you're doing correct? No. As women must question, we must always be ready to question the status quo, ready to fight, and in fighting, not necessarily to generate ourselves the core of who we are, but really fight the issue at hand. And the issues that we deal with are many, and the issues that we deal with are very demeaning to us. You'd think to yourself that when someone speaks, you speak, but someone speaks above you and they get heard. It's like you ask yourself, but why do I even have to fight for this? Fight just to be heard. The fifth one, she talks about throughout history, black women have been fighting for the right to say no to sex. Black women's wombs are the currency that funded slavery. Black women exist in a world where they are hyper-sexualized and denied autonomy over their bodies. Hill Collins quotes Walker, how black women's voices are silenced when it comes to sex and the normalization of rape. Once you strip away the lie that rape is pleasant, that children are not permanently damaged by sexual pain, that violence done to them is washed away by fear, silence, and time, you are left with a positive horror of the lives of thousands of children who have been sexually abused and have never been permitted their own language to tell about it. I think within the time where we've dealt with, I'll probably only make an example about her right now, because I believe her death was very touching to all of us. I believe the images that were put out there of Oyinene, sweet young woman who was just coming into life and who was killed just basically because she's a woman. She wasn't killed because she did anything. She wasn't killed because she was stealing. She wasn't killed because she was running from the police. She wasn't killed because she was a criminal. She wasn't killed because she was doing anything out of the ordinary, but just going to the post office. And that on its own should explain to you how dangerous it is to have children who are women, who are girls, to be a woman, to be queer. How dangerous it is to be what society deems as useless, as dispensable. This man thought that he could just get rid of her and put her in a grave and no one would ask about her. Because in his mind, that's how women are to him. And sexuality for me is very touching because in most spaces, whether you are in corporate, whether you are in politics, whether you are in business, most of the time, success is always aligned to sex for a woman. So using sex is a way of shaming women. They will say you sleep your way to the top. And I'm always in awe of that because how do you sleep your way to the top? It makes no sense to me. How you can sleep your way to the top. Sex is always used as a way to shame us for our bodies. Sex is always used as a way to silence us. Don't speak about it, otherwise they'll say. Don't be like that, otherwise it will be like you did this. Even the judiciary system doesn't really see sex as a serious crime. So many women go to police to report rapes, to report crimes against their bodies, and nothing gets done. Your oppressor walks free just the next day. A woman's body is a tool. A woman's body is a method of using them. So some people will say, let's get the female people in a conference. If you sleep with them, they're going to go your way. So as if women don't have any kind of thought of their own to say, I go against this, I go against that. And sometimes these theories have come into our heads and they've come into our minds and they've made us view our bodies as weapons. They've made us view our bodies as things to despise. You'd rather not look a certain way. You'd rather not be a certain way because how dare you be that way? That means you slept your way to the top. There's a lot that goes on to discredit us as black women. The sexual connotations around black women, that they're loose, that they are smelly, that they are, they're not worthy of love, and how our white women counterparts get seen as women who are beautiful, who study, who have character, who have personalities. How white women are seen as good and pure and worthy of love, and how their husbands stay with them, and how our husbands and our partners don't want to stay with us because there's so many more out there. Sexual politics, you can go on and on without digressing. You can go on and on when it comes to sexual politics because sexual politics are the barbed wire that keeps us from talking. They are the barbed wire. They will slut shame you for speaking out, for saying sex work is real work. It will be like, you just said the worst thing, but actually sex work is real work. And it should be legalized in this country. We should protect our sex workers. We should protect the industry. It's an industry, and the industry is thriving because it's unprotected. Our people go unabused for, so there's a lot that we need to speak about when it comes to the sexual politics of black women in South Africa. And a lot of what is happening right now is basically a just that pus coming out. It's the pus coming out, and it's exposing what people think of black women in South Africa. The sixth thing she speaks about is black women's love relationship. She says, even in love, black women are not safe. Black women's experiences with pornography, prostitution, and rape demonstrate how erotic power becomes commodified and exploited by social institutions. Hill Collins highlights how Western ideals, which define politics of desirability, state that black women are less desirable, thus less deserving of love. We see this in the constant humanization of black women. Black women are raped and killed and murdered in shallow graves like dogs. This treatment is often at the hands of people they love. In my opening statement, I said how it's at home. Our brothers, our husbands, our spouses, our fathers, our uncles, they don't see us. They don't see us, and it's because of how we've been portrayed by society. It's how they think about us as black women, that we're dispensable, that we lack, we're not human. We are lesser than animals, basically. We are to be used and disposed of. And that speaks to then how hard black women have to work just to be seen. How hard black women have to work just to be heard. How dark women specifically feel dirty and are made to see themselves as less than. The things that are said about them. How black beauty is defined by white standards. And how our male counterparts, I'm talking about black males in South Africa, see us as disposable. The seventh theme, she speaks about black women and motherhood. She says, ideas about black motherhood often emanate from black and white male historically. The concept of motherhood has been of central importance in the philosophies of people of African descent. In many black communities, so much sanctification surrounds black motherhood that the idea that mothers should live lives of sacrifice has come to be seen as a norm. Black women's labor and suffering is glorified. The issues faced by black mothers who come back to the frequently thankless chores of their own loneliness, their own families, is not acknowledged. If you think about it, how society depicts black women maids. My mother took me to university on her domestic worker salary. My mother had to work and stand outside selling fruit for me to go to school. My mother had to stand on the street and beg for money. That's how I've become the person that I am. So we don't have representation of black women being strong, being, black women being powerful, black women owning positions. We've got a black woman in a very subservient role, the sacrifice, the strength that comes within her. This is the legacy that we have, and this is the legacy that we've been assigned as black women, to be in a very subservient role, but yet we need to be black women who are powerful, black women who work hard, black women who plan, who save, black women who sacrifice themselves. Black women are not happy. Black women are not depicted in a happy space. They don't go and travel. Black women don't climb into your cars and drive. Black women don't do things that society depicts as luxuries. Black women are not meant to have luxuries. That is what we see through the media. That is what we see through the stories. That's what we see with our own moms. We don't see strong black women who own property, black women who do things, black women in business, black women who are happy, black women who are just enjoying life and living life, according to society standards, and also against our white counterparts. We don't see that, and it's all deliberate. The eighth theory she speaks about is rethinking black women's activism. As she says, their definitional limitations and analysis of black women's actions in the resistance struggles. For example, historian Rosalind Taylor Penn defines resistance as women's involvement in the organized struggle against slavery, peonage, and imperialism. Strategies include open and guerrilla warfare, marriage, slave revolts, peasant revolts. Taylor Penn uncovers important and much needed information about these specific types of black women resistance. The actions and labor of black women are often erased in black liberation movements. We've seen this in liberation movements both in the continent and in the African diaspora. Women are often seen as flowers of the revolution. They are not recognized for their intellectual contributions. And the feminist movement is often presented as anti-male, men-hating movement, when in fact feminism is an anti-oppression movement. Drawing on the model of education as empowerment, many black women routinely reject models of authority based on unjust hierarchies. I think this last part is very important, because, like I said before, in structures, in boardrooms, with it's like how white people become childish about triple BE. In politics, you see how men struggle for power. So they'll say no. Well, they engage you and say, we'll put you there, but you need to be the deputy chair. And, you need to be, in space lesser than where I am. Patriarchy informs itself in many ways in South Africa. It informs itself from our government, from the portfolios that women are given, from our corporate spaces, from the lineage of, of power and position and decision making. Women are never given decision making positions of key importance. It's always men. And some may think that why are you whinging about it? But actually it's systematic. Our boy children are brought up differently from our girl children. And I understand the dynamics of binary in terms of understanding that we're not speaking male and female. However, the world is speaking male and female. The world sees us as male and female, black or white. The world doesn't want women at the forefront. And I always say that if you put women at the center will hold. And I believe that the reason why we have a very unequal society in terms of the economy at the moment is because women are not at the center. The reason why we don't have, we have so much poverty in the world is because women are not at the center. Men don't understand how to feed, how to care, how to worry, how to love. The reason why we have so many wars in the country is because we don't have women in the center. So the center is not holding. The reason why we are in a situation that we're in now with inflation, with a pandemic, with everything is because women are not at the center. And the center is not holding. We're not liberated. We're not free. We're not seen. And we are made to feel as if it is our own fault. So you have to then perform and be the woman that's different from other women. You have to be the mbokoto, the stone. That is, how they praise you, or imbokoto. But actually, I don't want to be imbokoto. Neither do I want to be a flower. I want to be me. I want to be a woman that embodies strength. I want to be a woman that embodies love. I want to be a woman that embodies empathy, and a woman that is driven, a woman that knows what she wants, a woman that sees the situation and wants to change it. I want to have a voice. I want, when I speak, don't cut me off. Don't tell me to sit down. Put me at the table. Put me at the center and watch it hold. Put women where, in fact, it's not up to you to put women, but understand that we are equal. Understand that sexism is something that needs to fall. Classism is something that needs to fall. Race issues, those are the things we're fighting for. But at the end of the day, as black women, we are fighting a war, and we are at the bottom of the pyramid. We are food. We are, what is that? The food you feed dogs. We're basically not seen and heard. And it's not a place, I'm not saying this to whinge and whine about our positioning as women. I'm saying this to explain the status quo. And I'm explaining this as a way to show you that it shouldn't be that way. As women, we all really need to be feminists. As women, we all need to have an understanding of our role. As women, we all need to support each other and understand that we're fighting different battles. As women, we need to come to a place where we fight unapologetically. We speak unapologetically. We are at the forefront without just being a demographic. And for me, this book speaks so much about reading on who you are and reading about, how the world sees you, how the world has systematically made you feel that you are inferior, and how the world has or the, in everything that you see, be it a magazine, be it a book, be it watching TV, a movie, be it walking into a space, be it in any space, you actually have to open your eyes and see that as a woman, you're not seen. Imagine then being a black, queer, trans woman, how the world treats you. Should we be experiencing these things in 2020? No, I don't think so. Should we be talking about it in 2020? Yes, we should. Should we have these many killings, these many deaths? Should we have Tsholofelo, who was killed pregnant by her partner? Should we be experiencing the life as black women? No, we shouldn't. And no, we should not have to accept it. Okay. The third part of this book speaks about black feminism, knowledge, and power. It says, within U.S. black feminism, race, class, gender, and sexuality constitute mutually constructing systems of oppression. Intersectional paradigms make two important contributions to understanding the connections between knowledge and empowerment. Black women's activism struggles to transform the U.S. educational, economical, and political institutions could not have been sustained. Yet, popular perspectives on black political activism often fail to see how struggles for group survival are just as important as confrontations with institutional power. Prevailing definitions of political activism and resistance misunderstand the meaning of these concepts in black women's lives. So people will always talk about feminism in a way that seems to shame feminism, that seems to shame feminists. Speaking out, how you go on Facebook now and you'll see your black feminists are probably braless and having boards right now on Black Lives Matter. It's a way to shame and diminish the protest. It's a way to silence the plight of black women. It's a way in which it evokes shame on feminism. So not many women would want to be associated with feminism. Not many women would want to be associated with black radical feminism specifically. So they will say, okay, it's for them. It's not for me. I'm not a feminist. But yet, every single day, you fight, the feminist agenda. Every single day, you are a part of the feminist agenda. But what society has done is to make feminism a swear word, is to make black radical feminism, designed for certain people. So they will shame black radical feminists and say they are loose lesbians, because lesbian is supposed to be a bad word and a swear word, whereas it's literally a life. It's a sexuality. It's who we are. They will make black radical feminism seem like people that are performative, people that don't really fight for black women, but are just crazy in their own little way. They'll depict and nitpick on certain lived-in experiences to make you feel that I don't think I want to be associated with that. I don't think that's what I'm about. But actually, we are all feminists. Actually, we are fighting for the same thing. The system is out to get us. And the system, unfortunately, is in-house. It's within our black colleagues, our comrades, our people. It's within the spaces that we walk in. It's with the people that we talk to. It's when they say to you, you're so much smarter than the rest, you're actually so much different. You don't fight. And I like that you don't fight. But actually, it's not a way of, it's not a compliment. It's a way to segregate you from the rest. It's a way to exclude you from the rest. So that when you occupy that position, you think you're special. But it shouldn't be that way. Our liberation should be uniform. The way we're being seen should be uniform. And the fact that in 2020 we have to fight for basic rights of our own bodies. I can't jog past a certain time because I don't know what will happen to me. The fact that I can't speak in a meeting in a certain way oppresses me. The fact that I can't mother children because the first man couldn't do what was right by me. So therefore, I met another man who had a child by me. So we have children from different fathers. It's derogatory to the world, but it's actually my choice to say I want children with this man that I found love in. So they depict black women as these women who are crass, who are ghetto, who are cheap. Black women are seen as lowest of the bar. When a black man marries a white woman, it's seen as a step up in the right place. But actually, black women exist. Black women are there. I am a black woman. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am a mother. I'm a good mother. I'm smart. I am all the things that I know that I am. However, society means that I have to prove myself to them, that is who I am. And lastly, as I close this, what is EFF's position on feminism? We know that EFF is basically supporting and is feminist. The EFF believes that just as black communities' emancipation is incomplete without economic freedom, black communities' emancipation project is incomplete without the eradication of violence against women and the LGBTQI community. The revolution will be intersectional, or it is incomplete. We cannot say that Black Lives Matter, while as a black community we subject women and queer people to violence. The documents of the EFF reiterate the same thoughts as Patricia, the rest of the world, that women have suffered most from neoliberal reality for the past 20 years in South Africa. The vicious cycle of triple oppression based on class, race, and gender has not been broken for black women in particular. The EFF recognizes that while patriarchy and sexism are pervasive in our society, it is black women who suffer the most from gender-based violence. Up to now, interventions for dealing with violence against women have been superficial, half-hearted, and based on the wrong understanding of the root causes of the vulnerability of women. And I need us to think about that, because if we say we are economic freedom fighters, then we need to realize that we are economic freedom fighters fighting for all people, fighting for women, fighting for the queer community, fighting for all of us. And if none of us are free, then we are all not free. Thank you very much for listening to me. As I say, I'm still learning, and I find myself questioning my own prejudices. I find myself questioning myself, and I think it's good to question yourself, because it means you're learning, you're growing, and you're becoming better. And I think that as black women, we really need not be too hard on ourselves. We are perfect. God made us perfect. God made us who we are. We are mothers to beautiful children. We are friends. We are daughters. We are, complete in the way that we were made. And I believe that we need to look at that and always question our own prejudices as well, because we can also be prejudiced against each other. And also watch that you never allow yourself to be used in spaces that do not align with your own beliefs. I thank you very much.